What's going on, everyone? I'm Encore. This is Tomorrow Never Comes. And since today is Wednesday, it's time for Whiteboard Wednesday. And I figured, forget Canva, let's do an actual mini little whiteboard here. All right. But what do I want to cover today is I want to cover passive income. Something that it took me a long time to learn in the crypto space. And that is, how do you generate income for yourself, regardless of whether you're in a hot market, which they call a bull market, or you're in a cold market, which they call the bear market. And that's something that was very difficult to understand. When I first got into the market, it was a hot market. And so you think everything is always going to go up and up and up. And so whatever positions you're in, they're always just going to multiply and exponentially grow. But that's not the case. And as we've seen over the last, almost 11 months or so, the market has turned the other way. And now we think the market will never return back to being a hot market. So the psychology is different, but the passive income can be relatively the same. And I want to go over a particular site I'll share at the end, but the strategy in terms of generating passive income. And it's so crucial because it keeps you even keel throughout the process. So let's get right into it here. So first thing I want to show you guys is this whole 10%. All right. Now, the whole point of 10% here is that that's how much portfolio of your portfolio I think is a comfortable risk to explore passive income opportunities. Now, some of you may be more comfortable with 5%, maybe less, maybe more. For me, it's around 10%. It's not financial advice, none of this, but it's just strictly for me how I feel comfortable. And what do I mean by 10%? Look, at the end of the day, passive income pretty much requires you to give up your assets to another platform. And what they do with it will generate a certain amount of yield or interest, and they pass that on to you and take bulk for themselves. But the inherent risk there is that since you're giving them control, they can go belly up, kind of like Celsius. They can freeze your accounts, suspend your accounts. I mean, you don't know, you don't own the asset, so there is that risk. So that needs to be said right from the outset. So I don't like going more than 10% of my portfolio trying to find passive income opportunities. But I do think it's important because I have been burned in the past many times where I was relying on those gains that never happened. And the passive income I generate now comes to me irrespective of what's happening. Here's the thing though, here's a little wrinkle. Because you're getting passive income in a particular asset. So if you deposit Bitcoin, you can get it in Bitcoin. You'll get your interest in Bitcoin. If you do it in ETH, you can get it back in ETH. Okay. Now, there is USDC. If you get yield in USDC, you're not going to experience the fluctuation in price. But if you do Bitcoin or ETH, while the rate may stay the same, so let's say you're getting 2% per week or 10% a month or year, whatever it is, that 10% is the same, but the value of Bitcoin and ETH are going to change. So you may get more at certain points, you may also get less at certain points, but the rate is going to stay the same. So I want to make that clear, okay? And so I think it's very important to do that because it does require risk to go and seek out passive income. But if you can find the right platforms, you can make pretty decent passive income. And we're going to go through some strategies here of how you can kind of de-risk it, or at least as best as you can. Okay, so that's my 10% right off the bat. All right, so then there's also types of return. What are we looking at in terms of what we're going to get? And what's the mechanism for how it works? Well, essentially, there's two things that you can do. One is you can keep it on the platform and it kind of compounds. Now, so the site that I use or the platform I use, they call it hyper compound. So that means that if you have $100 worth of Bitcoin today, and they give you a certain amount of interest and it turns into $105. Instead of taking that $5 out, you leave the 105 in as a whole, so that the next time you get interest, you're getting interest on $105 instead of $100. Okay, so that's the hyper compounding part of it. Now, most platforms, I would say 98 to 99% of platforms, if you're going to do that, require you to lock up your assets. And lock up means you can't withdraw within a certain time period. So if it's 6 months, if it's 9 months, 12 months, they'll give you a great rate, but you've locked it in and you've essentially given it to them for that period of time and you cannot return it. Now, the platform that I'm going to share at the end does not do that. You can withdraw whenever you like. So that's the hyper compounding portion of it. So whatever interest you're yielding, it's kind of building on top of what you've already deposited. And so then every single time you get interest, it's on a bigger pile. That's essentially what's happening. But number two here is that you can actually receive payments. And whether that's monthly, weekly, whatever the case is, there may be some mechanism built in where the interest that you receive, again, remember, it's in that particular asset, Bitcoin, ETH, USDC, whatever it is, you can get that sent directly to a wallet of your choice, which is not bad, right? You're going to get a certain amount of payments. You know that payment is coming in and it's on a regular basis. So there are platforms who will do that. The one at the end that I share is definitely such a platform. All right. So why are these two things important? Hyper compounding and the payments aspect of it, the weekly payments or the regular scheduled payments, because we can incorporate that into our strategies. All right. So two main strategies here. And the first one I really want to show you is it's really, we're talking about hyper compounding until you get back your principal. And then what do you do at that point? So if I have one Bitcoin in there, okay, let's say 1 ETH. I have 1 ETH on the platform and the interest is building, it's building, it's building, it's building. And now I have 2 ETH, so I have doubled my money, right? What you can do is you can remove the principal off the platform. So if I have 1 ETH to begin with, now I've made 2 ETH, I'm going to take my 1 ETH back, and now that 1 ETH can sit there. So it's essentially risk-free at this point because I've taken what I've deposited initially. And then you can decide at that point, do you want to let it just hyper compound and build it to as much as you want? Do you want to take payments at some point? That is a strategy which is risk-free at that point. That's all gravy now, okay? But number two here, or B actually, is when you're taking payments until a certain point. Now, why would you want to take payments right off the bat when you can earn interest? Well, we talk about how there is risk associated with getting passive income. So if you're going to leave something in for a period of time to hyper compound, it can definitely be a risky situation. If you take payments right out the gate, well, you're kind of de-risking the whole process because you are getting a return right away into your wallet. So over time, let's say it goes belly up and you have 1 ETH, you've gotten half an ETH in return in payments, and now the company goes belly up or freezes your account or something happens. Well, yeah, you lost, but you lost half an ETH as opposed to losing your entire ETH. So remember that part of it too. What you can do is you can just say, I'm going to receive payments until I receive the same amount as I deposited. So again, if we go back to the 1 ETH, I'm going to take my weekly payments, my monthly payments, whatever the case is, I'm going to take payments until I make 1 ETH back into my wallet. And now, again, I am essentially playing with profits now. Whatever's on the platform, I could turn around and say, okay, let's change it to hyper compound, or continue to give me payments of 1 ETH, and I'm just enjoying life. I know that's coming in. So I wanted to share this with you because I was of the same mind that most people are, that say hodl, 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 keep everything in your cold wallet, and 10 years from now, things will be amazing. But I think sometimes that's disingenuous, because I do believe that there are massive crypto whales out there, key players who have thousands, hundreds of Bitcoin and ETH, and they're essentially not sitting on them. They're doing something with it. They're making their crypto assets work for them, but a very tiny portion. And I think that gets lost for us who are trying to build our stack, that when times go rough and we don't have really money to deploy, or we don't really see a gain in what we have or from what we have, then it becomes problematic. Now, of course, the best and most simplest way, not best, but the easiest way is hodl, continue to stack, and work on generating revenue or income somehow outside. So you can always dollar cost average. That is the safest strategy out there. But I've kind of changed my mode of working through this bear market, and that's to find ways to generate some income for me. So what I like to do is I like to hyper compound until I can maintain my principal. I'll remove it, hopefully anyway. Greed always gets there. That's the part, is you have to stick to the plan. Whatever plan you have from the outset, try and stick to that. It'll serve you well in the long term. So the plan is to hyper compound until I make my principal back, remove it. I'll let it hyper compound for a period of time, and then I'll start to take weekly payments out. And hopefully, at some point in the near future, the price of Bitcoin or ETH and these assets will appreciate, which means my weekly payout or the hyper compounding will be on a bigger amount. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. Now, what is the platform that I use? Okay, it's a very solid platform, and here's the funny thing. I resisted this platform for some time. It was mentioned to me, and I'll put the link in the description. I resisted it for the longest time, and I just couldn't understand how they could give you something on a weekly basis in the same asset. Didn't make any sense for me. Okay, but this platform I use is called I think I rubbed that out there. This is called My Liquidity Partner. I've been in it now since May, and it's doing quite well. All right, now the rates I believe they're offering is 1.75% weekly, and it's not, they don't do it in terms of lending or anything like that. What they do is they provide, I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds, but they provide liquidity to Uniswap. So when all the trading that's happening, whether the market is hot or not hot, there's always some level of trading. They provide a certain amount of liquidity for it. They get a certain amount of yield themselves, and they pass on some of that to us. Okay. Now, the biggest thing is, can you withdraw? So any platform that you use, always try and see if you can withdraw. I told you some are locked up, you can't do anything. But platforms that promote you can withdraw on a flexible basis, you got to test that sooner rather than later. And My Liquidity Partner has been no issues in terms of withdrawals. So for now, everything seems good. But again, this is not a recommendation for My Liquidity Partner. It's not financial advice. I'm not advising you to do that. Do your own research, dig into them, reach out to them, ask them questions, join their Discord, join their Telegram, find out all the information you can. And if you're comfortable, only put in what you are comfortable putting in. All right. So by no means does this mean go blind and do something about it. Do your research, figure it out, and then do that. But let's say you don't even use this platform. You got to find ways to make passive income. You have to. And that's going to require a little bit of risk. Now, if you have income coming in from all different sources, no problem. No need to touch that. But if you are looking for ways to kind of make some money, a steady stream, regardless of what the market is doing, passive income's your way. But you just kind of have to figure it out and kind of play around a little bit. Hopefully this video brought you some value. And if I run across any other platforms that provide safe as can be, passive income, I'll be sure to highlight these on this channel as well. So guys, if you like the video, hit the like button. It's pretty easy. Subscribe to the channel, and we can grow through crypto together and find ways to create generational wealth. All right. Much love, respect, and I'll see you guys in the next video.